Yo, good evening. I figured this would probably be the easiest way to get a whole bunch of information out really quickly. I know some of you are new to fantasy, so I figure it's easier just to show you what I'm talking about rather than describing what everything is. Um, in fantasy sports, we do drafts where we go through and we pick all of the available MLR players. And each person gets to pick a person and put them on their team. There's a couple different ways for us to draft. But before I do that, I just kind of wanted to do a quick little fantasy sports 101, kind of give you a little bit idea of what we're talking about, so that you can make an informed decision. Because either we're going to do what's known as a slow draft, or we'll do a meeting and do a group draft. Um, so I wanted to give you just an idea of what those things meant. So, no matter what we're going to do is we're going to set a draft order. And we have 6 people in our league. These are all of them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click this button and it's going to randomize the draft order for us, and then that's the order that we're going to use, because we need to draft by Saturday the 28th, which is really super soon. So if we choose to do a slow draft, we're going to want to start doing it as soon as we all agree to do that, or we need to schedule something throughout the week so that we can have our league drafted before the Saturday the 28th. So we only have a couple days to do this. So I got to get us going on it pretty quick. So this is going to be our draft order for what we're going to use, either if we do a slow draft or if we do an in-person meeting and do it, or a phone call through Discord. Or however we want to do it, this is the order that we're going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and randomize it, and then I'm going to put it right into our draft sheet so you guys can see that. So that'll all be uploaded as I do it. So I'm going to click this little random button, and this will be our draft order. And I swear I did not do that on purpose. I don't know. Yeah, but I'm the first overall pick. So I'm going to put my name up here. And I'm just going to upload this real quick so that you guys can see, and there's no, um, yeah, no crazy bits or anything. So, Kelta and Steve Z. So, how this, oops, did something wrong there. Give me one sec. Kelta and Steve Z. Okay, so how this is going to work is we have a couple different options on how we want to do the draft. The first thing we can do is we can all come together on a Discord call, uh, or I can set up Teams, or what are the other video conferencing things, whatever we need to do. I can set up a time and we can all get together, and then one by one we're going to pick players. So with me having the first pick of this, I could take somebody and take James Ryan, for instance, and pick him to be on my team. So I would pick him first, and then the next person would go and they would pick their player, and then the next person would pick their player, and so on, until it gets to Steve Z. And then Steve Z, being at the end of this first round, would get the next pick. So then it would go to Steve Z, and then it would go to the next person, and the next person, and the next person, till we get through all of our rosters. I'm going to clear this out of here because these aren't your actual picks. On everybody's team, they're all going to have a separate tab for their team that they're drafting. So we have different positions for each of the different fantasy categories. We have our front row, second row, back row, our fly half, our half back, our center, our back three, and our I'm sorry, this is a front flex um, position, meaning that you can have any of your front row players in that flex position. And then this BF is a back flex position, meaning you can have either your halfbacks, your center, or your back three. You can have an extra one. And then these named positions are your starting lineup. And then you can also have your bench players as well. So it's a good idea to um, make sure that your positions are covered so that you can start a lineup. But it's also important that you have benches because we have bye weeks and stuff, or your player might get injured or might not be starting. So by having somebody on your bench, it's a good idea because then you can slot them into those positions. During the weeks, we do have ways of a waiver system so that you can drop players that you've drafted and then pick up other players. We use what's called a fantasy budget or a fab budget, but it's a way of basically saying I have a certain amount of fake money that I can use to purchase players throughout the season. So if somebody isn't doing very well, I can drop them and then purchase a new guy, and it's uh, based on whoever bids the most for them. So if I wanted somebody, I could bid a lot more money and then get them. So um, drafting is important in that you want to try to pick the best people that you can, but after that first week, if you realize that there's somebody that's not playing or gets injured, you can pick other players throughout the season. So don't feel stuck with whoever you draft. One thing that's very common in MLR is nobody has any idea what's going on because we don't get a good preseason like they do in other sports. So you don't always know who's going to be in that starting lineup. So yeah, we're going to draft. Don't put too much um, like don't bet your whole season on the draft. You can win the draft and then not do well during the season. So um, but still try to focus on the draft. Like you don't want to just phone it in, because you do want to try to get players that you're excited to see, players that you want to follow, or players that you think are going to do really good and score you a lot of points. Each of these different positions, they have different mechanisms that go into how we generate the points for them. As you can see from last year's stats, that our back row or our backs, our centers, back threes, our fly halves tend to score a lot of points, but there are some of those row players, like we have a second row, back row in here that also score really well too. So uh, try to spread it out. Don't necessarily draft all the same type of player because you are going to need to fill up all of your different bench spots, and all of your different position spots. Um, so that's kind of how the draft works. Um, so if it was team one going here and the first person that they picked was Devin Rousseau, I would take them and put them in their center spot. Then everybody else is going to draft and do all their things, and then we get to our next pick and we're going to pick this back three person and we'll put them in, and then they're going to keep going, and then they pick Nick Ben, who is also a back three. That would go into their flex spot. And then if we went a little bit further and they picked another back row person, then that's going to go into their bench spot. And then hopefully they start picking some other spots. Like here, their next one, they do a half or a second row player that would go in here. So I'll go ahead and as we start drafting, I'll go through and maintain this Google sheet so that you can see what your player is, kind of identify what players you're going to want to draft next, and hopefully have a good idea of who you're targeting. Um, so that kind of explains how the draft works. Like I said a little earlier, there's two different types of drafts that we can do. There's the team, the everybody getting together and having kind of a draft party, and in that one's going to be super quick. Basically, we would block out about, and I say super quick, it'll probably take like 2 hours, but we'll get on a Teams call or a Discord call, and then we'll go through and we'll basically just start picking players and start drafting them. Um, and then once we get to the end, then your teams are set. I'll show you how to um, set your lineups and all that kind of stuff. That'll be after Saturday, because as soon as we get our draft figured out and all the players we want, then Ryan and the Fantasy Records group is going to go and put all of those people into the website for us. So it does take a little bit of time to do all of that work for all the different leagues. That's why we have to do it by Saturday. Um, so the draft party is my preferred way to do it, because then we can just rock it out in like 2 hours and call it good. The other option we have is what's called a slow draft. So if we can't find a day where all of us are free, then what we can do is do what's known as a slow draft. And how that works is each person is on the clock for a certain amount of time, and we set when the parameters of you being on the clock is. So we won't put somebody on the clock if it's like nighttime. So in the first year that we did this, we did a slow draft where you'd be on the clock from like 9 to 9. So 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. is the window that the on the clock time could be. And everybody would get 3 hours to make your pick. So, how this would work with me being in the number one spot, I would make the first pick and I would pick Devin Rousseau. And then I would go to Discord and I would post in our Discord. Um, I would say Devin Rousseau, and then I would say Milo, and I would actually at him. So I'd go at Milo, you're on the clock. And then that sets your 3 hour window for you to go in and say who your pick is. So you get that at message and you go, oh shoot, I got to get in there real quick. My pick is going to be Joel Hodgson. And you make that pick and then you pick the next person. So after you do Joel Hodgson, you say Joel Hodgson, and then I keep saying his name wrong. Sorry to Joel. I'm just going to stick to his first name. Then you would go Grand Vizier, you're on the clock. And it would go like that. Grand would then come in here, pick whoever he wants in his spot, and then he would say in this he would say Debbie Coates, and then he would at the next person in line, and it would keep going. Then when you get to the end of that day, so we go from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. If it gets to that point and like let's say it's 8 o'clock and Grand is putting Rhythm on the clock, the time stops when we get at 9 o'clock and then resumes again uh, when we get to 9 a.m. The next day. So let's say that it's 8 o'clock right now, and I'm gonna write this so it's a little easier. 8 p.m. when Rhythm gets put on the clock. So he has an hour while he's on the clock to make his pick, and then it pauses until 9 o'clock a.m. the next day. And then he has 2 hours to make his pick. And then if he doesn't end up making a pick, then what happens is we'll go to his team and I'll look at our draft, this draft order that has all the players, and then I will take the highest ranked person that's available for that row. So if he doesn't have a back three, this is the highest available person for the back three. I'll pick that, and then that will be who is on his team. And then we keep going, and then if he misses his next thing, then I'll look at whoever is the next available person, and I imagine that a bunch of these people are going to be drafted by then, so they won't be available, but whoever is the next highest available person, I'll pick that spot, and then keep going down until all of the roster spots are filled. Um, Auto drafting kind of sucks because you might end up with somebody that you don't want. So it's really important that if we do a slow draft, that you all turn your notifications on the Discord and that you pay attention to those pings and you respond to them really quick because you're only on the clock for a certain amount of time. So there are some drawbacks to it. We did it 1 year and it worked pretty well in that everybody stayed on it, and it took us about probably 4 or 5 days to get all the way through because most people had, their ringer turned all the way up, and when they got that Discord ping, they were responding really quick because they didn't want to auto draft. So that is an option. Long story long, I'm going to put that out to you guys to pick which way you want to go. Uh, I'll do a little vote thing, although I'm going to tell you right now, my vote is to pick a day and have a draft night. But if you guys want to do a slow draft, we can do that. It just is a little risky in that if we get close to that hard cut off time of Saturday at midnight, then I'm going to be hounding you guys to make your picks real quick. Um, hey, so as you can tell, my headset died. Hopefully, all of that audio was good. I have no idea what you heard, what you didn't. I'm gonna post this. There is an option of doing a hybrid draft where basically we do this slow, and then at the end, if we have to get together for a meeting to pick players, then we do it then. I guess that's technically a third option, but I'm gonna put that out to you guys to pick what you want. This video is already too long, so no editing. I'm just going to post it and send it. Okay.